Hey there guys, Eli again coming at you from the fish rooms of Coventry, here to talk about one of my favorite fish, and that is the Leopard Wrasse. In this tank up here, I've got a pair of what I believe are ornate Leopard Wrasses. This is the male right here, this beautiful blue wrasse with all these kind of like orange crosshatch markings down the side. And the female is unfortunately taking a nap in the sand bed, but these wrasses are from the genus Macropharyngodion, which includes all of the leopard wrasses. There are a good handful of species. This happens to be one of the more common ones you will come across in the hobby. They are one of my favorite fish, not only because they're so beautiful to look at, but they're just kind of an interesting and somewhat difficult fish to keep in the hobby. So these fish are often considered, some sources will say expert only, or some people just say that they're very difficult. The big reason behind this is that they are very timid, they're terribly shy, and they're also not always the most likely to take to frozen foods very well. So fortunately, this pair that I have in this tank is already showing interest in frozen food. They do both eat frozen mysis. However, they can be somewhat like your mandarin gobies or dragonets that have kind of a hard time taking the frozen food, and they generally like to eat live copepods, amphipods, and that sort of thing. The leopard wrasses can be very similar in this respect. So generally adding them to a well-established aquarium, and especially a larger aquarium, probably 75 gallons plus, helps to ease their transition into captivity because they generally have enough rock work to graze and enough live foods, copepods, amphipods, to kind of feed themselves on. But one of the major things about this pair right here is they're already eating frozen, and a lot of times the leopard wrasses that we do get into the store take pretty quickly to frozen food, which is awesome. Just like with your mandarins and your dragonets, since they do prefer to graze all day long, it is kind of important, even if they are on frozen foods, to feed them a couple times a day because they have such a fast metabolism, and this makes it kind of difficult for them to take to just a single feeding a day. So generally feeding them a couple times a day and adding them to a well-seasoned, large enough aquarium, make sure that these guys stay fat and happy. This male here is very active already. What's kind of interesting is in the wild, they're generally pretty much nocturnal, or they might be more active at dusk and dawn, but this guy has been out all day long, which is just awesome. However, in my experience, if they are housed with very aggressive fish or active fish, this can kind of stress them out into hiding. As I just mentioned, this female, she's buried somewhere in the sand bed, which is kind of what they do usually when they go to bed at night. However, she has been hiding a lot more than the male has. So like I mentioned earlier, keeping these guys in a decently sized aquarium is very important. I would say nothing less than 75 gallons. And something that's been aged for probably a year, something that you can ensure has a good community of small bugs for these guys to eat. However, most of these wrasses don't get terribly large. There's a handful of species. Some only reach about 5 inches, some maybe 7 or 8 inches full grown. These are another fish that are sexually dimorphic, so this male does have a different pattern than his female counterpart does, which is kind of interesting. And you can generally house a male with a handful of females and they should get along just fine. And for that matter, even mixing different species of leopard wrasses together, as long as you have just a single male and a handful of females, generally does all right, which is pretty cool in comparison to, say, some of your other types of wrasses, like the 6-line family of wrasses. Some of your chorus species of wrasses don't like to be housed together. Leopard wrasses are pretty peaceful, and they don't mind the company of each other as long as you don't have too many males. I would just say that it's important to kind of take a step back and watch this fish's behavior. It's great that this fish is nice and active, and also that it eats, but that is something that it definitely wouldn't hurt to ask at the fish store if you're planning to pick one of these fish up, is to see if he's already been eating frozen food, to see how well he's been doing in the tank. Because like I said earlier, they're very timid, they're pretty prone to hiding, and making sure you start off with a nice, healthy, active individual right off the rip is important to ensuring their long-term success in the aquarium. As always, thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comment section below if you have questions, suggestions for future videos, and keep on reefing.